Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Collecting Profit. I am one of your hosts, Michael, Huddle Card Collection. I got my partner in crime right next to me, Anthony from Picksburgh, and we are very happy to have a special guest, Connor from buysportscards.com. And we will be getting into his website and talking about him and the hobby, and really, really looking forward to it. So, Anthony, you have pass it over to you. Go ahead and
Yeah.
tell us, introduce
So,
yourself, and
guys,
tell us what's going on, man.
thanks so much for joining us. Again, for any of you guys new to the show, my name's Anthony. I'm the co host. Michael and I do switch back and forth every single week. So, next week, the show will be over on my channel. So, if you're new to me, make sure you come over and subscribe to Picksburgh as well. So that way you guys won't miss any episodes as we do alternate weekly. But again, we're just really excited and tickled pink to be able to talk to Connor today and really just pick his brain about his business, about the hobby, and about other things. If you guys have any questions throughout the show, feel free to fire them into the chat. And Connor's offered to be an open book for us here tonight. So again, any questions you guys may have for him, feel free to ask, and we will relay throughout the show.
So, Connor, I give the floor to you to introduce yourself.
Yep. Well, first of all, I really appreciate you guys both having me on. As you said, I'm the founder and CEO of buysportscards.com. Buysportscards.com is really a marketplace where our goal is to make it easier to buy and sell sports cards. My background really is I collect to collect. It's not as much about the investing for me. There's definitely the flipping to get to the cards that I want, but there really is just the underlying love for cards. And one of the frustrating things for me a lot of times is those type of collectors aren't really tailored to in the market. You see a lot of products and sites coming along for higher end cards, investing type tools, but you don't really see sites dedicated to collectors. And that means making it easier to buy the card that you want, to filter, to find them. And it also means for the cards that you're trying to sell so that you can get into something else, making those steps easier to save you both time and money. And so that's ultimately what our goal is with buysportscards.com. And we've made pretty good progress in the first year, and we're excited to see what the rest of 2023 brings.
Awesome. So what is your background in the hobby?
Yep. So just kind of like anybody else, a lot of these stories are very similar, it seems like, but started getting into cards more in elementary school. I played a lot of sports growing up. It was always kind of a way to incentivize me to, do my homework or do well on tests. And, it was also, something where I've always loved numbers and statistics, and I've loved sports. And so kind of the tie-in between seeing players on the, that I watched on the screen with my dad, having them on a card, learning about their statistics and figuring out, who's good based on those. It's not helped me as much now with a lot of the analytics conversations.
Oh, yeah.
But, when it comes to, batting average, home runs, RBIs, or, points per game, rebounds, assists, like those are things that I kind of learned and how I learned about the sport. And, I think that especially those, early to mid 2000 sets when I was growing up, it made it fun to collect cards, and they were so, accessible. And that's really kind of how I got in to the hobby and started to have a love for it that's, lived on now basically the rest of my life.
So as we talked, before the show, you actually have a store. So how do you go? What was the driving force, or how did you get into saying, hey, you know what, I want to start a store?
Yeah. So really through like probably right before I went to college, like a lot of other people, I started to find stuff that I had as I was kind of getting ready to move into my dorm, whether that be sports cards or trading cards. My generation, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, those kind of games are big as well. And those were things that I collected growing up. And it really kind of rekindled an interest in it for me. I don't know if it was just kind of, feeling like I was getting old by going off to college, and it was something that kind of anchored me to my youth. But that really kind of got me back into the world of cards. And from there, I started to look into them, see that there was value, see how much it had really changed as a hobby. And just some things that I never knew as a kid were kind of going on at the time, whether that be card shows or events that were around these cards. And so, from there, I started reselling cards. A lot of my experience was with trading cards, but also sports cards as well. Made a lot of friends through that. And ultimately, once I got out of college, I had an opportunity with a friend that wanted to open his own store, that had worked at a store for a long time, that we went half in on a store and created our own store. And that's been a lot of great experience as well. And once again, it's just nice to be able to have a place where people can come, share a common interest from all different backgrounds, and really appreciate something that brings a lot of different type of people together. So that's kind of how we got to having a store.
So the typical LCS type thing, all different brands, all different boxes, all different singles, all along those lines.
Yeah, so I would say our store, because my good friend runs the day-to-day operations at the store since I'm fully focused on buysportscards.com. His background's a little more with the trading cards. So we do a lot of tournaments around trading cards, but we have singles for cards, we have boxes and packs. But yeah, it's definitely just a feel where people can come, hang out, be comfortable, and kind of find like-minded individuals, people that they can rely on. It's definitely a different atmosphere than buying cards at a Walmart or a Target. You really
Right.
get to talk to other people that are collectors or in the industry, as hobbyists, and then you also get to talk to a more informed kind of uh, you know basically employer base, and people that are running and working at the store. So it's a nice feel.
Absolutely.
So so about a year ago, you said you have this idea of building your own website for selling sports cards. What was kind of the driving force? What were like? What was going on at that point where you said, you know what, I need to do some better things here because I don't like X, Y, and Z? Was it based off of that, or was it just I don't know, different things that you didn't like about other marketplaces or something that kind of drove you to building your own?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me that question. I think my wife asked me that question more than I'd like, because of the time and money that's associated in doing something like this. But ultimately, the best motivation for wanting to make this sacrifice, and all of the personal and financial struggle associated with it, is it's something that you want to use yourself. I mean, that's really been a thing for me and my team that's continued to push us to improve and to get it to fruition and then grow it from there, is that it's a service that we wanted to use and that we use now. Really, like you said, I've used a lot of the other sites that are out there, and we really focus on kind of the meat and potatoes collector. It's not the people that are spending $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 a month. It's people that are spending, anywhere from $10 to $100 a month, and buying a bunch of cards to fill out their collections, to fill out sets and player collections that they have. And so, really the pain point was that I'd use the other sites that were out there, and through my experiences with that, I felt like that they just didn't really meet the criteria that me and friends and other people that are kind of running the same circles that I'm in, it just didn't really check enough boxes for us, and it didn't seem like they were necessarily catering towards that audience. And so we wanted to do something about that, and that motivated us to build buysportscards.com.
Yeah, and
Very
Michael, I
cool.
do
Well,
have on a tab there if you want to share it out,
yeah,
the actual website.
yeah. So here's the actual website. So I kind of know if you want to
Yeah,
we give a
do a
tour, give
little.
around whatever it is you may want to, what would you like to,
Absolutely.
show, feature, show,
So
or anything like that?
just a few things I'm noticing off the bat that I think is huge. It's really cool that you guys offer your own standard envelope, which
Yep.
is super cool. I've never seen any other platform outside of eBay offer some kind of discounted shipping for cards like that. That's massive.
Hmm.
Also, I love seeing right here that you can list going from eBay 25 cards an hour all the way up to potentially thousands. That's pretty huge, and probably the most impressive thing I'm seeing just off of your banner is the 0% fees. Like,
Yeah.
uh, how are you guys able to do 0% transaction fees? That's amazing.
Yeah, so those are really kind of the three big pillars, I would say, of buysportscards.com at this time. So I'll kind of take it one by
Hmm.
one. The first one is the 0% seller fees. A lot of people will ask me about that. I have the benefit that with other business stuff that I have going on, that I can continue to self fund the business at this point. So really, as I'm sure you guys know, being in the hobby, ultimately the best marketing that you're going to have is word of mouth. And if you do something that's worthwhile, that makes the experience easier for both the buyer and the seller, and collectors in general, they'll tell people about it. And so our philosophy has always been, we're going to keep the site free. It's been free now over a year. I suspect it'll probably be free into the end of this year, if not a little bit longer than that. But it gives the opportunity for people to get on our site and try it out. And really, our belief is, like I said, it's free. Feel free to try it out. But once people use the site, I think they see the potential. I think they see that the value that it offers right now, and that they want to be on it. And so rather than taking a few percentage points at this point from collectors and turning that into ad money, we're just going to keep it in the pockets of our collectors, and we think they'll be a lot more happy to kind of spread the word that way. And so it's been a great thing. And once again, I think it shows the resiliency and the support that the hobby has for products that they care about and people that they think are doing the right thing.
Absolutely. I mean, that definitely shows a lot of, promise to potential new people wanting to get on your platform, because pretty much every other platform in the space right now is raising fees, and you guys are offering free fees, which is just amazing. Definitely kudos. And that shows the passion project that, you're willing to start off and just be like, hey, try our platform. We're not even going to charge you for it. Super cool.
Yeah. I think, like you said, I think it shows a lot of belief in, what we've built and it being a good product, because you do see that there's a lot of places that pop up and they charge kind of an arm and a leg, and if you end up leaving, they don't really care because they got their chunk from you.
Right.
But for us, like I said, we've been free for over a year now, and our business being successful is ultimately dependent on people staying with us, building larger collections on the site, and coming back and buying more and more. So, ultimately, if our site's no good, then this plan basically has no chance of success. But what we've been able to see is that by keeping it free, people are continuing to build and build and build, because I think they see what we're ultimately going for and they support that. And you'd be surprised. A lot of sites, they probably have people reaching out telling them to lower fees. We actually have customers that reach out and say, you know what, you guys really, you can take a couple percent from me if you want, but it's just not part of the plan right now. This has been much better for getting the name out and growing the site.
I love how you guys have so many different ways to sort cards, like not even just by going by the pictures. I can clearly see by what the image is, what sport it would be, or what the image is, what set it would be. But even your drop down here does have top sets, top players, and top teams, which the only real beef I have is that the Steelers are not listed as a top team under football, but I think I'll let you slide.
You must not have been buying enough. I'm blaming you, not me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely guilty in that regard.
And I will tell you, as someone who has an account, and actually I'm not going to show the address or anything, but I actually just made my first sale today on the website.
Oh,
That's
cool.
awesome.
And it was great because, I mean, I like the feature of getting the notification, so I did not have to, go there and check all the time. Hey, did I make any sales, or so on and so forth, and everything like you do at some other sites. You kind of get a notification, but sometimes it's just a notification. Let's say, on a phone or something. Sometimes you don't get the email. And how easy it was. Now, the standard envelope, excellent. I mean, it was super easy to go through the checkout, and well, not I didn't check out, but you know what I mean, the actual pulling the order and sending it and everything. A question I had about, I guess, for a more personal thing is, obviously, is it recommended that you print a packing list with your stuff? Is that kind of still just something that people do whatever they want to do from that standpoint?
Yeah. So, and I think is a good segue into the other question Anthony had as well. So, when it comes to the packing slip, one of the things that we do provide, I think you probably saw in that order in the top right hand, there's a print packing slip button, and it's really nice because it organizes all the cards that are in the order. We see a lot of people putting those into the envelopes or the package just so it's easier to kind of keep track of once the buyer receives it. As you probably know, with these kind of cards, there's a lot of people that are buying stuff in mass, so it's sometimes easier to remember who you bought it from, so you can leave feedback or check the box to make sure you got that package. So we would recommend it. It's not necessarily required though. But one of the things you kind of hit a little bit on was the standard envelope, and I know Anthony had brought that up before. And one of the things that we're really proud of on buysportscards.com, we're actually the only site besides eBay that has built-in shipping labels to be purchased. And so we have discounted first class and priority rates. Sellers, when they make a sale, since we already have the buyer address and the seller address, we're able to populate that immediately for them when they want to buy shipping. They're able to go through and get insurance or signature confirmation if they'd like from our site. And the last part is that we do have the standard envelope option that eBay has as well. And That provides a tracked letter up to 3 ounces. It starts at 80 cents, and on the high end, it's $1.30 for a 3 ounce package, which can fit about 12 cards. And so, once again, we really want to make this process of buying and selling cards easier, especially when you get into these cards that are, anywhere from 25 cents to, a dollar, $2, $5. Different people have different pain thresholds when it comes to shipping items out. But really, we think by providing tools to make it easier to list cards and to ship cards, it just unlocks a whole nother level of your inventory that on sites like eBay you've never been able to get to because it's not worth your time.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% correct. When I went to ship mine, I basically really had to. It was just five little quick clicks. It was a click for the envelope, a click for the ounces. Did I want signature and did I want insurance? Once I hit those, it was print, boom, out the printer, done.
Yeah.
So it was a very, very quick quick way to go through and everything. Um, and for those people, people that are, that are watching or they're checking on the replay, I think one of the things that I found amazing about the site was how easy it truly was. And I know there are a lot of people, they have the scanners with the AI and all the other kind of stuff and all that stuff and those programs and I'm not, uh those are, they're good and everything like this, but to me, with your website, if you're organized by, to me, what I found the easiest. I'm not saying you can't do it any other way, but for me, the easiest way was if you're organized by set, sport and set. So if you had, 19, if you had 2021, tops baseball to list is ridiculous because all you need to do is put in how many you have and how many you want to charge, what you want to charge,
Yeah.
because the listing and everything is already done for you. The picture's already there. Now, I did notice some have pictures, some don't.
Mhm.
But even if you don't, even if there is a picture, you can still add your own picture of the card if you want to.
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah. And
it really is a very cool, quick, simple way to I mean, I didn't list it. I listed like 35 cards, but I think I listed 35 cards, honestly, in about 5 minutes.
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. I was just boom, boom. I just went down. Oh, card one, $1. I have one. Oh, card eight, went to card eight, card nine, boom. Cause I just did it. I did it by set and I put them in number order and then listening was okay. It's done. I was like, well, now what do I do? I have time. I just listed 35 cards. I
Yeah.
might as well start working on another set to put in order to be able to throw them up on the site.
So would you say a good strategy for people looking to that are new to the site, looking to get on there and maximize getting as much listed as possible is when you're sourcing cards, maybe target some similar sets, if you're able to?
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that we see, like Michael kind of hit the nail on the head there, is the fact that by having the checklist and having everything organized and making it digestible for the seller, if you go through basically the sport year set, you can even then narrow it down from there into insert sets or parallels. We have the list already pre-populated for you so that you don't have to type in the name of the player, the team, the
That's
card number, any of that. But if you are going and you organize it like that, you can list cards tremendously quickly. And we've had a seller in the course of about 4 hours that listed over 25,000 cards on the website. And I mean, yeah, it's pretty incredible. But we hear it a lot from people. It's like, a lot of these cards have been sitting in my garage, they've been sitting in my spare bedroom. You know, my wife wants to invite you over for dinner now because you're cleaning out the house for me.
Yep.
But that's really where ultimately our belief is by making this easier. Michael or Anthony now can find home for cards that they may not want, but they know other people want them. And it always makes me sad to see people throwing cards away or burning cards. I know sometimes it may need to happen. But I think a lot of the reason that happens is because some of the other places to list are just too time consuming. It's not worth, listing 10, 20, 25-cent cards in a half an hour on eBay, because it's like at that point you're working for less than, $3-4 an hour. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's not worth your time. But if you get on our site and you list 25,000 cards in the course of several hours, well, now you can justify doing it. And once again, now you're getting those cards to somebody that's going to appreciate them. And so we take pride in that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I can see this being super attractive to someone like my best friend Marty is like a degenerate ripper. So like say the new Donruss comes out, like literally the next week he has like multiple sets of like every of the insert sets.
Yep.
Like all of the rated rookies he has like multiple copies of. So like for him just to go type in, like 2023 Donruss and then just like, oh wow, there's the entire checklist, let me just go ahead and put how many I have and how much I want for each, like that'd be like something that would be super attractive to somebody just trying to get all of that new product out there as quick as possible.
Yeah, and Michael, if you really quick want to go to the marketplace, I can show you some
Yep.
cool stuff in the search features
Oh,
as
the
well.
buying.
Yeah, so just click on the top right where it says return to marketplace.
Oh, there it is, right
Yep.
there. Good.
Yeah, so if you just go to the top and you want to click the magnifying glass, that'll do just right there in the search bar. Yep.
Yep.
That'll just do a full search right there. So you can type stuff in, but maybe a quicker way we could go through real quick is if you just wanted to do, like you said, baseball 2021 tops, you can just kind of go down the line here and you can get this set up so that all of the listings show and people can kind of see how easy it is because of the organization as well. So even if you want to go to base here for the variant, so right under there, yep,
Got it.
we've got base, insert, parallel. And also in the top right-hand corner, you can sort by all the different ones. So you can sort by card number if you want.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so then here you've got the different cards that we have in stock. If you go to the filter where it says in stock only, you can also click the off button. And yep, right up there. Yep. And that'll show you all the cards that were in the set. So like for instance, that Fernando Tatis, what we call 1B was an SSP that we don't have in stock, or
Right.
1C we don't have in stock. But this also becomes an informational tool for you as a collector. So we may not have it on the site, but at least you can know what cards exist out there.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, and so this is just another way. I don't think a lot of people think about it. And people love the 0%, they love the standard envelope, they love the bulk upload. But another thing that we do to
Oh,
help
I like
sellers,
them. Yep.
another thing that we do to help sellers is that we make the site really easy to use for buyers. And when you basically organize the listings like we have here, you make it easy for people to buy cards. As you can probably see, you start to window shop, you start to find things that you didn't know existed, or you just have a lot more time to look around because you're not having to weed through a bunch of listings that you're not interested in. And so that's another way that we see sellers converting a lot higher than they do on other sites, is because we make this a lot easier for buyers.
Mm-hmm.
So a question, am I getting, he said this, ripping and flipping cards, am I getting the basic right? The website basically, you have all the information, you just click away.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And one of the things people mention, so we have all these stock images, but if it's something that you want to put your own image up on any listing, you're able to do that. And that's something as well that is really nice. But yeah, we already have the year, the set, the sport, the player, the team, the card number, whether it's base, insert, parallel, front and back photos. So these are things where basically the way I like to say it is we have 95% of the job done. All we need to know is what condition card do you have? So is it raw or graded? If it's graded, who graded it? What score did it get? If it's raw, what condition is it? What price you want to sell it at? And then how many you have? And that's all the information that we need from you. So when it comes to going down the line and doing the bulk upload, you can blow through over 1,000 cards an hour pretty easily once you
Blow
get
this
used to
up
it.
a little bit, and you can see, and it says, like, if you look at the Tatis, it's actually saying there are 10 raw listed, there are 0 graded, and the low price starts at 25. So you're not having to figure out how many are listed, and that's right there for you. And when you click on it,
Yep.
I have to click on the actual thing, not not
Yeah,
on
if you
the
go,
not on the StreamYard. I'm like, all right, the StreamYard's not going. What's going on? And you could actually see who,
yeah, if you go,
what you have here.
yeah. So yeah,
Free
you can go
shipping,
through.
80-cent shipping, $2 shipping, the condition of the card. It's
Yeah, so
pretty
if you
cool.
go full screen real quick so if you zoom out, yep. So you can see there everything that we have for the card. So you're able to go through and you're able to see all the listings. You have the option, on some of the listings, we start to have more and more that they basically you have to scroll down. So there's an option for the condition right there where you can say, I only want to look at the near mint copies. I only want to look at the excellent copies, whatever. So it filters it out. And then same thing on graded. So you're able to filter through that. Another thing too, like let's just I'm trying to think what would be
Well, real
a
quick
good
before we go, I like this part right here, the price history coming soon. I like that
Yeah.
you're gonna have that right there on it when you're looking at it, which is really, really good.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we're able to do by having everything organized on the website. It makes it difficult for sites like eBay because they're very reliant on what sellers list the item as.
Mhm.
As you know, people may list it wrong. There's a lot of other factors and things that people put in the title that may not be accurate. But what we've done is we've standardized the listing. So we've made it so that now it cuts through all the eBay one of one and all these things that people throw into the title. And now you're able to see in one place, this is the card. You can see the sellers that are selling it there. You can see their feedback percentage, how many cards they've sold, the condition of their card, their price, their shipping rate, and how many they have in stock. And if they have a picture of the card, there's a little camera icon to the left of the seller name. So none of these guys put pictures up, probably because it was a 25-cent card and they didn't want to have to go through it. But yeah, so it just makes it really easy because now everything's in one place. You don't have to click through 100 listings to try to figure out what's going on.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
just a fun question real quick. You'd mentioned eBay one of one. Has there been a card yet that you guys have referred to as the BSC one of one?
No, that would almost become a meme in and of itself. We have some one of one cards, I think, that are on the site. But yeah, we that's the biggest thing. We try to keep the catalog organized. We use the manufacturer checklist and terms. Sometimes things go by on the checklist what people don't know that's the name. Sometimes the hobby has a name for certain parallels that isn't necessarily the official name. But yeah, so if you put the on switch right here, real quick to the inventory,
On switch of
yeah,
inventory.
for in
Okay, yeah.
stock. And then if you want to go like high to low here, I think that I can find a good example of one where we've got a picture. I remember there's I think there
This
was
was
a
boxing.
Yeah, so that's fine. Click the James J. Corbett. I think that there might be a picture of that listing. Yep. So you see the little camera icon. So if you click that, what happens is now it replaces the stock image and shows that you're viewing the seller card investor. So he didn't put a back photo, but that's his front photo. And if you hover over it, then you can click to enlarge the image. And
Oh
now you
wow.
have a magnifying glass and you can go in and see this was the listing that he put up. So, some people are like, well, I don't want a stock image, but the seller always has the option to put their own photos. So we're not limiting them on that regard, but this allows you now to go through and when you see that little camera icon, you'll always be able to go click on the listing and see the seller's actual photo. So,
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's
but
really cool.
yeah. So it's a nice little tool that we've got there.
Do you guys integrate with any like Card Dealer Pro software, like any of those like listing programs?
So not at the moment. I actually know Fred and Ted. They're both good guys over there at Car Dealer Pro. The biggest thing sometimes that comes down, and it's a thing that they deal with as well, is sometimes those AI matchings have trouble on certain things. And my worry would always just be putting things on the site that may not be correct in terms of the matching. We've seen that with people that we've tried in the past, but they're good guys. They've definitely talked about doing it. It's something I think in the future that we might do. But kind of like Michael said, sometimes the bulk upload tool is probably faster in a lot of cases than the scan. So it's we go back and forth, but at the meantime, it's not something that we're integrated with, but it's something that we could definitely do, and we've got good relationship with all those guys.
Do you find there's a threshold that, like, as far as price of a card, that people will typically upload their own pictures more so than like just use the stock photos that are provided?
Yeah, so I would say probably somewhere around the $5 to $10 range. I mean, it really depends. We get guys that upload pictures on every single card. And, one of the things, as I'm sure you can understand, is when it comes to a 25-cent card and one guy's got a picture and one doesn't, unless the picture is bad or it's really badly miscut or damaged or whatever, that card's probably going to be the one that sells. So, some sellers do go above and beyond, and we appreciate that. But we also appreciate that, everybody values their time differently. Everybody's got, different life circumstances. So we give them that option. Now, one of the things that we've seen is by not having for graded cards, we always require a photo just because we want to ensure that it is, what it says it is, because those typically are a little more costly.
That makes sense.
The one thing we've seen with the raw though is you make it really easy, but then you have some people that kind of they use it for what it wasn't intended for. So a lot of the picture of the point of the no picture needed is for the 25-cent card. It's not for the $2,500 card. Now it's kind of more no harm, no foul, because if there's no picture, it probably won't get bought. But sometimes people are like, hey, I'd like to see this. And so that's where we're kind of kicking it back and forth. What would be a good threshold? And we're thinking probably somewhere around $10 to require people cards over $10 to put a picture, just so that way everybody's on the same page and there's not issues with condition sensitivity and this wasn't what you said or whatever else. But we really haven't had much of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean that would be really attractive for someone like me. Like I sell a lot on eBay. Like I don't know if that's like something bad to say to somebody who runs like a rival company, but I sell a lot of like $1 and $2, $3, under $5 cards. Like I still sell like more expensive stuff like slabs and stuff, but something like your website where I could literally just do all of those cheap cards really, really fast is very attractive, you know, as opposed to like literally sitting there for like an hour, maybe only getting 20 cards listed like we had talked about. So
yeah, no, and like you said, one of the things I think that's definitely true is that, you know, every site kind of has its niche. And I think for us, we saw that this was a part of the market that probably just because there's not $1 million sales, but there's just so much data and so much work that needs to be done to make it streamlined, that it's just not been something that anybody's really gotten to. And we wanted to be the ones to go for it because it was something we were passionate about. And like you said, we see tons and tons of people that are, you know, really excited, that care about these cards and making it easier by doing that, those $5 and less cards. We've seen a lot of those on the site.
Yeah, and to see, you know, we talked about, you know, the ease, right? So once you have your account and you're all set up, if you have 20, 23, you know, baseball that you want to list, you come over here, you go to baseball.
Well, Michael, I've got even I got a faster way I can teach you as we're going along too.
Let's do that then.
Yeah, so go hover over inventory. So this is kind of where you're at right now is more of like the single card search. But if you look on the black row right there, inventory, there's a drop down. It's between orders and dashboard.
Got it.
Yep. Go to bulk upload. So this is the real fast tool where people are listing thousands of cards. So if you go start with the first prompt there, baseball, and then you can do whatever year you've got that you want to do. Then you can search the set there that you want. You can type 2 at the top if you want to, you know, type tops in or whatever. Yep. And you can just go tops.
What's doing Baltimore Orioles?
Sure. And then you go with base cards. And then from there, you can enter your condition that you want all these cards to be pre-populated as. So you just do near mint or very good. You can enter a default price, and that'll enter into all the rows. You can leave it blank if you want to. But if you hit generate there, it'll populate the list for you there. And see, this is the whole checklist. So a lot of these cards, it's a newer release here, so we don't have the photos yet. But if you hover over those, it'll pop up what the photo is once we get them. But you can see there, you got Adelaide's the first one. You've got the card number. You've got the set, the base, all of that there. And you have the condition entered. And now you can go down. It's like an Excel spreadsheet. So if you want to type in, you know, 50 cent, one quantity, 50 cent, one quantity.
That's huge. That's huge. You got the whole set, even though like you don't have the pictures yet, like you still have like all of the data, which is like, in my opinion, the more important part.
Yeah. And that's a thing too, where, you know, we've got a lot of procedures in place to get images set up, and, you know, users are great too, because they'll add images that we don't have. And we've got stuff in kind of our system to flag that so that we can make those, you know, our stock images and things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, if you just use either the tab key or use the arrow, you just move up and down, you know, you can type in whatever you need and just keep moving around. And so, yeah, I mean, you can just blow through that. And same thing.
I mean, yeah, you just fly through.
Yeah, and if at the top you would have put default price of 25 cents, it would have already entered 25 cents on all of them. You could have went down the line and said, I got 2, 3, 4, 7, 8. And then whenever you get to a card that maybe you want to change the price, then you can just go change that one. Yeah. But it just makes it
so you put in
quick.
you put in what you're going to sell most of them for, make those couple changes. And if you have a SKU system, the way so the SKU here would be, a lot of people would use that, let's say, for a filing system of how they file their cards. So if you're putting all these cards in the same place, you put this thing in there and it'll list it in every single one of them. You're done.
Yep. And then what that does then is when you make a sale, it'll show on the packing slip for you when you go to fulfill the order, hey, you sold this card. It's in box 2, row 3 for you. So it makes it really easy when you're going to pick the order, so you don't have to just dig through all your inventory.
That's awesome.
Dang, that's so much faster.
Yeah, that's quick. And the sell your card, I would say, is more when people are like, you know, maybe they have one card from a set that they had a good pull and they're kind of doing one at a time. So they'll search like the player and the card number, and they'll kind of go one at a time. But yeah, that bulk upload, that's where guys are listing thousands and thousands of cards just because we've streamlined it so much. And as long as they're organized, they can blow through stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge.
Who did they? So anyways, how many new what are you seeing about your new sellers coming to the platform each month?
Yeah, so I would say we typically have about several hundred new sellers a month that are coming on right now. It's still growing pretty quickly. I mean, we basically every metric we've had for the last year has been growing over 20% bigger than the last month. And so that's been growing really quickly. I think one of the things that I'm really proud about, though, is we have hundreds and hundreds of sellers that have over 1,000 cards listed on the website. So it's, we have some big guys that have hundreds of thousands or even over 1 million cards that they've been able to get up. But we've got a lot of people that are able to list cards that, they're not guys that you'll recognize their name from other sites that they've been doing it for a long time. But we've just lowered the barrier to entry to allow them to effectively compete with people that have full-time staffs doing this.
Mm.
So here's a question from Ripping and Flipping. I know you'd already mentioned that there is 0 fees currently on the website. Is there any limit to how many cards somebody can list, or are you hoping that we list as many as we possibly can?
Yeah. I mean, that's the funny thing with some of these sites. It's like, we've tried to set our business up so that the more that you succeed, the more that our business will succeed once we do start charging fees. So I want you to list as many cards as possible, and don't let anybody tell you different. The cost that it costs them to store it in the database is not much different whether you've got 1,000 cards or 5,000 cards. It's negligible. So we have no sales fee on the website. We have no monthly charge. There's no membership. There's no insertion fee. We're not taking a penny at all. So Buy Sports Cards has $0 in revenue, which doesn't make my wife sleep well. But ultimately, like I said, with other business stuff that I don't have any issue continuing to do this for a while and build up the trust in the community. That's the most important thing for long-term success anyway. So the only deduction that comes from a seller would be when the credit card is processed through Stripe. And so that ends up being about 3.5%, whatever it ends up being with their percentage and their little charge for the card. But like let's say you made $100 sale on the website. Once they take that 3.5%, we pass the other $97 along to you. All of it is yours, and I don't charge you based on your cards, based on sales, based on monthly. We're not taking a penny from anybody at this point, and maybe some point we'll take a couple percentage in sales fees. But for right now, there's no fees, there's no ads, there's no monetization of the site.
I mean, even a couple percent eventually is still huge comparatively to the competition right now. You know what I mean? Like, especially if you have a liquid marketplace where people are genuinely looking to go and build out collections. You know what I mean? Like, that's always been the times I have big days on eBay is when like an actual collector comes by and it's like, oh, you just listed 20 Aaron Judge cards. I'm a big Aaron Judge fan. Let me go and buy all 20 of those cards, or something like that happens, so like a site that's catering to those type of people, it's like, attractive to list that type of inventory.
I'm positive. I'm excited once you get set up and start listing. We welcome everybody. Like I said, in the long run, with this kind of business, because we're not dealing with $1 million cards, we need tons of inventory. We need tons of collectors, and so we don't have any interest in making it harder for you guys than it needs to be. I think, sometimes in business, it's like, let's get people through the door, but they get a very, watered down version, and everybody else will, basically try to push them into these other places. We wanted to give the best service possible. And, from there, we really think once we say, hey, we're going to charge, 1, 2, 3%, I don't think that it'll be something that people will leave just because they know it's been over a year right now. We haven't charged anything. And like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if it's 2 years without charging anything. So we have more people ask us to charge than, like I said, I'm willing to tell my wife. But right now, it's the best thing for growing the website. And it's the best thing for, I think, the hobby to have, a company that's trying to kind of do it the right way and having people genuinely happy with it rather than feel coerced into, paying for something they don't really like.
And as far as advertising go, it's been word of mouth, social media type stuff, right? I mean, I haven't seen any, skywriters in the sky, saying, with advertising and, but so, I mean, that's, to generate what you've been generating and the amount of cards that you have listed in the millions and millions is, is a remarkable growth in such a short period of time. You've done a great job and everything. And yeah, ripping and flipping, it is good. It is cheaper than having Chrono and eBay. And I think the point is, you're not depending on AI to, like you said, to make sure there's a match.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
and yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. And another thing that was a crazy statistic, one of my guys on my team that's a little more into math and the numbers than I am, he's like, it was actually 1 year to the date since we launched the website that we hit 6 million cards. So we're at about 6.5 million now. It's been, about 13 months since we launched, but it's been one card listed every 5 seconds. That's what it averages out
huge.
to have, 6 million cards listed in a year, because there's about whatever 31 million seconds in a year. And so, we've seen, tremendous growth. I think eBay is around probably like 15 cards in the course of 6 seconds or so. So they're faster than us by a decent amount still, just because they have the size. But I think that we're starting to level the playing field for people, because like I said, we're lowering the barrier to entry and making it easier for people that haven't been able to get to stuff. Michael mentioned before being able to list 35 cards in 5 minutes for him, and he didn't even know the bulk upload tool existed at
Exactly.
that time. So, for him now he has more time to list stuff that he wouldn't have been able to list before, or time to do other stuff. Listing cards is never fun. So, if we can get you out of it quicker, then that's also a win.
Yeah, that's literally the worst part about buying cards in bulk, is like then having to list them. Like, so
Yeah.
like having it be easy and simple is super attractive. Especially when you're not getting, $50, $100 or more per sale, where it's like onesie twosies. It's like, if it's not fast, it's like almost a waste of time. So like that's huge that you've saved this much time without having to get some kind of like expensive software or something like that, because that's been the thing I've been literally wondering for my personal business is, how do I get faster than what I'm currently doing without actually investing in a software? And I think you've pretty much answered the question, especially with
Yeah.
the inventory I use.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, I'm friends with the guys at Fujitsu. Like I said, I know the guys that have the different AI stuff. Everybody's got their difficulties in their business, but I think they do a good job. Not perfect, but they match a lot of stuff. But yeah, with the AI, I mean, you're still spending time to have to go through the manual process comes behind it, where you've got to make sure, was it accurate? Did it put it in the right set?
Mhm.
You don't want something to get pushed into the wrong spot and never get seen. And the other part of it is, to be able to get a printer that's thousands of dollars, or a scanner that's thousands of dollars to run stuff through, to pay hundreds of dollars a month for software. I mean, the reality is, most of the people that are in this hobby that have tons of cards that they want to sell, it's more just so that they can flip it into other stuff. They're not trying to hire a bunch of
Oh yeah.
people and make this, a full-time job. And, I think that what we take a lot of pride in is enabling and allowing them an avenue to sell cards too. It's like, you don't have to be, Rob at Burbank Cards to be able to sell cards in size. You're able to still do it in a pretty good way as well with our tools.
So ripping and flipping. I love it, man. So this is a home run for base junk. Glad I have two scanners.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, you'll definitely help him out with those two scanners, putting I guess all the new sets up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And if he doesn't even want to scan them, I mean, a lot of those 25-cent cards, you start to see that, as much as people get meticulous about certain stuff, and there are the guys that, do the raw to grade stuff where they're looking for diamonds in the rough that they can turn around and grade. A lot of the people that are in this industry, I saw a statistic from eBay where they had said that the majority of the sales on their site, this was a year or two ago, but they said the majority of the sales on their site were between the $5 and $15 cards. And I think you don't really hear enough about that, and I know you guys talk about kind of the collector's collector. But if you watched other YouTube channels out there, if you looked at the hobby media stuff, if you looked at card shows, you would think everybody in the industry is multimillionaires, and that's not the truth. And I think that it's important that these cards have an outlet. There's millions of people, whether you know it or not, that are collecting these cards. And on a 25-cent card, it's not the end of the day if they don't see a picture beforehand, because they're just trying to fill the set out, and they take your word for it. And the reality is, most of the people in this hobby are good people, and they're not lying about 25-cent cards conditions.
For sure. And most people don't care about a 25-cent card's condition either.
Yeah, not beyond, if you say it's near mint, well, it's got to be pretty good then. I mean, that's, and if you want to put a picture, you can. So it's nice for everybody.
For sure. So quick question. Shout out to our guy Paul in the chat there from the Off Centered podcast. He actually sparked my mind for this question. Do you guys have a lot of international customers on the website? And if so, are there any parts of the world that you guys don't yet service?
Yeah, so right now we're only US, and
Okay.
really kind of the same way with sports cards. At this point, we
Mhm.
really want to focus on one specific vertical and make sure we do a good job. I kind of use the analogy, I would be rather be an inch wide and a mile deep than a mile wide and an inch deep.
Mhm.
I've seen probably over the last year, with the way that the hobby has, I think, rightly reacted to the way that certain companies have done stuff. Sometimes you just need to check the main boxes before you start to get, too big for your britches per se. So ultimately, for us, we're only US right now. We'd love to expand into Canada. I think it's something that we definitely would like to do. But there's a lot of stuff that we do on our website that other sites don't. We remit sales tax for the sellers. So we abide by all the sales tax laws, which have changed a lot in the last several years. And that's something that if you go international, it becomes a whole nother animal with the taxes. You've got different parts of French Canada where the language is different. You start to get into other stuff where a lot of our shipping offerings, then we would need to get additional contracts to be able to offer things through Canadian Post and things like that. And so that's all stuff that we can do. It's stuff that we want to do. But like I said, we're really trying to grow this and focus on these customers and getting it right. And once we feel really confident that our model is built out the way that we like with the US, then we're looking to expand into Canada and some other places. But I don't want to be drinking from the fire hose on some. I don't want to get French
Mhm.
Canadian frustration emails that I can't even read. So we're kind of going
Right.
one day at a time right now.
Yeah, understandable. I mean, that's definitely a good goal, you know what I mean, to eventually branch out, but not to kind of go too quick and, too
Yeah.
fast before you're ready or whatnot. And yeah, that's a really good point that I guess a lot of people don't think about is like international laws and stuff like that that could be a potential problem, like especially with the great deal you have with your own standard envelope. You know what I mean? Like that very well would be not applicable
Yeah.
worldwide, obviously because of the shipping differences.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you look at even like eBay's kind of the rule of thumb people go to, I mean, I would say if you go look kind of at where like the US sellers are, like the eBay versus the Canada, a lot of the most of the volumes in the US. I mean, it's not insignificant. And I, I, when I buy stuff, sometimes it's coming from Canada or wherever else. So those are definitely collectors that we want to get to. But it's, like I said, we got a big test group here with the US stuff where we're trying to build things out and we want to make sure that we don't screw any of that other important stuff up.
Yeah, absolutely ripping and
Yeah.
flipping. That's all I keep thinking of too is like all of like say like the base like cards of like LeBron, Curry, Tatum, like anybody that's popular or like any of like the inserts. Like I just think of all the sets, like every single Donruss, Marty has like every single insert set, like in like multiple quantities. Like this would be like
Yeah.
the perfect website for this type of stuff.
How do
Yeah,
you
exactly.
decide which sets to put on the website?
So our goal is to put every set on the website. It's a lot of work. We sometimes will have users say, "Hey, you missed this new Leaf set that came out a couple weeks ago that maybe wasn't, one of the premium ones." But we make an effort to get every set on the website. We've actually got a place there within the inventory page where you list cards that it says, if you're seeing anything we're missing, feel free to send it to us. Sometimes the manufacturers will call insert sets something different or the colors are something different on the official checklist. So we help people find those. A lot of the times we have them already. But there definitely have been times that we're missing stuff. And so ultimately, our goal is to have everything on the website. I think we have about 15 or 16 million cards in the card catalog with SKUs associated. So we've done a pretty good job, but it's not perfect. And as it comes up, we're more than happy to add them to the site.
Dom's in the house.
Dom, you rock.
Yeah, you definitely rock Dom.
Yeah.
It's I mean, I mean, is the future, obviously just as many cards as humanly possible?
That sounds good to me. Yeah, ultimately, one of the things I think, like you guys talked about, all of the ideas that have been brought up in the chat and that you guys have said about expansion are great ideas and they're valid. But I think sometimes, and we've seen this with different hobby companies recently, and it's true even outside of the hobby, it's probably true in people's life. And, there's an analogy that really helped me a lot with this business. It's, you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything you want. And that means you've got to prioritize. And so, for us, we're really focusing on this part of the market because it's something that I'm passionate about. I think that that's where the opportunity is. But our goal from here is, we'd like to be a site where people start to list, 20, 50, 100, 200, $500 cards. That may not be, we have those on the website, but that's not the primary use case at this point. We're seeing a lot of the base commons, the base inserts, those are great cards. We're glad to have them on the website, and collectors are glad to buy them. But ultimately for us, we want to continue to work our way up the value chain and kind of take the methods that we've had to making it easier for kind of all collectors.
Yep. There's a question. Does it basically have all sets scanned with stock photos for all sets so far?
Yes. Yeah. I would be, if you get on, I'll knock on wood, but I'd be surprised if there's something you can't find. Generally, we get stuff up pretty quick within a week or so, sometimes even before stuff's launched. So it's a lot of work to kind of manage it. But I think that we do a good job, and it's not going to be something where you look up, 2022 Donruss, and it's like, where's this set? I'm missing this, missing that. It's pretty thorough. And I mean, if you guys want to pull it up and go back, you can just start to see how much data is there, and it's organized. So we definitely can help it out.
Are you guys still actively looking for like any other employees? Like, are you hiring and growing the team at the moment, or are you kind of waiting to like the fee structure to kind of bring on, I guess to kind of scale it operationally?
Yeah, so we've got a pretty small team right now. Like I said, because it's something that I've self-funded, it was really important for me. Investors are probably great from one perspective, but my worry is always when you get people that aren't collectors that try to tell hobby businesses what to do, disaster follows. And so I wanted to make sure that, I didn't say the decisions were going to come down to, well, we could do this to save 0.1%, but we're going to piss off half of our customers, and we're going to do it anyway. And so we've been self-funded, which is mean we've had to stay lean and keep our costs down. One of the things that we've been doing a lot right now, it's not been hiring people, but there's been a lot of automation of processes that we were doing manually behind the scenes, whether it be with data related stuff or whatever else to get things up. And so ultimately, we still have a pretty small team right now. I would say that as we maybe get to the point of raising fees, one of the things that'll be in the back of our mind is, are we starting to be overwhelmed, whether that be support, whether that be data management, whether that be, just keeping the site and updating features and adding new things. So right now we're not really pushing to add people, because I think we've done a good job of organizing and maintaining our procedures. But we definitely do have those weeks where it's like, it feels like we're pushing on how much our team can do. And that's where we've got to kind of go back and start to automate things, because it's like, we can't be this hands-on with this part of the process, or we'll never be able to get to the size we need to.
For sure. I would imagine it's got to be very time sensitive getting all of these sets put together in time for, say, for example, like if it's release day, and sometimes people are even ripping products now before release day, certain influencers or certain shops that might have a good allocation might be getting the stuff sooner, in which case they might even be looking to sell the stuff like the minute it gets ripped. So for that being said, like you guys have probably got to have these sets pretty well built before the product even drops. And then I'm guessing once a product drops, you're scrambling to get all the images and everything put up. So what's that process like to make sure you guys always have the most up-to-date information? Because I know that would make the whole process of this being fast a lot harder if, say, I were to type in like 2023 Donruss and it didn't pop up, right away.
Yeah, so we benefit that there's a lot of like free public resources on Checklist. I mean, there's a lot of sites that do a great job of that and share those with the hobby, and so we rely on those. But as you know, the manufacturers never make it easy for anybody, and there's always SSPs that they put in, or they say these cards are going to be included in the checklist that they put up on tops.com, and then it's not actually in the set or whatever else, and so that can be frustrating. I think we try to do the best job that we can, and we've got different places both for buyers and sellers to report missing cards as well as inaccurate data. And so once again, we have procedures in place where people, when you start to basically go in and report inaccurate data, it sends notifications kind of to some of the guys on our data team, and that's where we go through and validate. So there's obviously still a manual process to it, but by the fact that I'm still standing here today, it's not that unbearable. So we've done a pretty good job of kind of keeping everything in line at this point. And like I said, the other saving grace sometimes is that since it's a free site, people, they give you more slack. If they're paying you $500 a month and 15% fees to use your website, and you're a minute slow, then they have a better reason to complain. But when it's a free site, if you're a couple minutes late or a day late, it's not the end of the world. And they kind of know that, we respond to all our emails within an hour or two. So we're very good at communicating, and people reach out if there's ever any issues.
Like there's
Dom, it is the site is just cards, for right now.
Yep.
So scenario, if you want to post a 1910-206 and it's not in inventory, what's the process for the seller for adding a listing that is not present?
Yeah, so we like I said, in 99.9% of the time we'll have it in the catalog, but anytime that we don't, we manage the catalog. The problem is like I say, probably 90% of the time that people reach out about a card not being there, it's because maybe they're searching for it incorrectly. Like you said, that T206 set spans 1909 to 1911, and so depending on what it is, it may not be the right year that you're looking at, or you may be typing in information that didn't necessarily exactly match the checklist. But in the case that it's not there, our team will go through and add that data to the catalog. And then at that point, now that's the kind of standard bearer on the site. We can edit data as needed, but the issue that we kind of wanted to avoid was getting it open-ended so that users could go in there, because you'd be surprised when people kind of get in there, whether it be certain parallels where it's like there's 16 different colors of silver and people start to list stuff in the wrong place. There's a lot of cleanup that we have to do, and if we left the data part too open-ended, it'd be more of a mess than I think we could handle. So we keep it a little rigid, but we're very responsive in getting it up.
Yeah, I mean, because you're right. I mean, somebody looks at it, they think it's a blue, it's a light blue, it's a teal, it's an aqua. To your point, but they don't know that in that set they call this color teal. But if you go to Panini, they call it aqua. They may look exactly alike when you put them next to each other. But to your point, it's knowing that.
Yeah, red wave versus ruby wave. I mean, Prism
Yeah.
will do it on the same year, different sports. They'll call them the same thing, different things, and it's like,
that's why I like your process. It cuts down on mistakes. I think that's why a lot of like the graders like PSA or SGC have gone to the method of, hey, what is your card? Type it in, and then we'll give you the options of what it might be based on what's in the checklist or whatever. You know what I mean? You cut down on mistakes and stuff like that. So I really like that way of doing it. JKB is asking, is the site currently based solely on sports card listing, or do you also encourage non-sports trading cards to be listed as well?
Yeah, so currently it's only sports cards. Sometimes people will call non-sport cards. We would have those in sports card sets. It looks like they maybe have Garbage Pail Kids on their picture, so I don't know if that's what they're referring to. I don't think that we have Garbage Pail or any of those kind of non-sport sets, but we will get stuff where maybe you'll get a Jeff Wilson influencer card, but that's technically Topps Big League, which is a baseball set, and so there's some of these cards that, when you look at it, you may say, well, this is a non-sport card, but if it's in a sports set, it's going to be on the website. But when you start to get Star Wars and Garbage Pail Kids and, Batman and some of this other stuff, that's not on the site at the moment. I'm not necessarily against adding it, but kind of going back to what we said before, sports cards is an animal of its own. I live in the trading card world. I have a store that does a lot of business in trading cards. And I think one of the things that's taught me is not that I can do everything, but that they're very different. And when people get on a website looking to collect sports cards, it's different than when they're looking for Garbage Pail or Star Wars, then different than Pokemon. And so, when you start to add too many of those together, you get the difference between going in and buying cards at a Walmart type site versus going to like an LCS. And we want to keep that feel of basically an LCS online. Like, I want people to walk in that they feel like the site was designed for sports cards. They don't see advertisements for pickup trucks. They don't see, Pokemon characters. They feel like sports cards. I think that's the best kind of way to start the site.
It's a good question. Rippin' and Flippin' wants to know, you mentioned you have 6 million cards that have been listed. What is the sell-through rate in general, if you know?
Yeah, I don't have the number off the top of my head, exactly what the sell-through rate is. One of the things that I could say kind of as an example, we've had people that have come over from some of our competitors. I would typically say the people that we pull customers from or compete with, obviously eBay competes with everybody, whether it's low end of the market or high end. But we see people like ComC, Beckett Marketplace, Sport Lots, like some of those kind of sellers that'll come to our site. And one of the things that they've really been able to benefit from is because of the organization of the site and also the fact that we're starting out, they become a little bit more of a big fish in a smaller pond than, swimming with the big sharks and getting hidden. And so by the fact that we've got better organization of our listings, which makes it easier for buyers to find stuff and to compare listings. So you don't have eBay promoting certain companies because they have deals behind the scenes with them, or, they're paying them stuff. So it levels the playing field from that regard, which means they get more attention. And like I said, you have a higher percentage of the views. So we've got guys that they may on other sites that they're paying a couple $100 a month plus 15% fees. They may sell $300 a month and be like, I'm barely breaking even. They come over to our site and they may do that in the first week. And so, and the big part of that too is the fact that you're keeping the profit. So we've seen it actually be really good. I don't unfortunately have the sell through off the top of my head for that number. But the nice thing is once you list the cards, they're listed. You can turn your inventory to hidden at any time, but you don't have to relist items. You don't get charged for insertion fees or storage fees. You keep them in your inventory and they're good to go. So at any point when you're ready to sell it or when that customer comes on the site, it'll sell.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is that one of the things that you like is that if you're looking for player X, you're looking for Pete Alonso, you go there, you put it in, you see all his cards, and you're able to see all of his cards. Whereas
Do you want to pull it up just so everybody can see it?
Sure.
While he's pulling that up, let me ask you another quick question. Unless it changes the topic too much, but in regards to listing cards, do you now or do you plan to ever have like a cross feature to where like if somebody does have like say cards listed on eBay, they could just say, hey, I want this on Buy Sports Cards and just transfer your listings, like whether that's through like a Excel sheet or some other type of way. Do you plan to have cross promotional listings available ever?
So do you want the short answer or the long answer on this one?
Whatever you prefer.
Okay, so I'll go with the long answer because I'm a talker. So this is something we get asked a lot. There's actually some really, really big sellers that have told me if we did this, that they would have their cards on our website. The big thing that I've seen, and maybe, I'd love feedback as well from people in the chat or anybody that wants to reach out to me directly. One of the things that I see is when sites do this, then their site becomes secondary to their own priorities and it becomes secondary to the customer's mind. And so you'll see some sites that if you buy a card on their own website, it'll take them 4 to 6 weeks to ship it. But if you buy it on their eBay store, it'll be a week to ship it. You'll and what happens then is that the people that are the most loyal to them end up getting the shortest stick because their master's ultimately eBay at that point. And so, you also see some of these sites where they maybe have a little bit better of a listing feature and they link it to eBay, and then you just become a tool to list to eBay and nobody cares about your website. And ultimately, I really view that as like, we want to create a platform as an alternative. eBay's great for some things, but ultimately you look at an industry that's 150 years old. It has over 15 million different cards that have ever been created. There's probably almost 100 billion total cards that have ever been printed. And you look at even in the most recent sets of Prism or Tops where you've got, 6 to 7 different colors of purple. If there's any industry I think that deserves a site dedicated to it, it's sports cards. And so that's really our goal. Like I said, there's nothing against an eBay type site. eBay's great for a lot of stuff. And I sell stuff on eBay occasionally. I respect what eBay's done for the hobby. But I think that for a certain part of the market, that it'd be nice to have a home just for sports cards. And so, rather than kind of just treat the symptoms of eBay, we're trying to come up with a cure and a different way of doing it. And, I'll leave you with this part for the question. I heard an analogy about Amazon. It was a story of Jeff Bezos, and he basically had somebody that had come over from one of the Japanese automakers, and they were doing a warehouse tour, and they were teaching them basically how to optimize. And one of the things he said to him was, you know, Jeff, I see you guys constantly cleaning the warehouse. I appreciate the idea of wanting to have a clean warehouse, but rather than constantly cleaning, why don't you find what's making it dirty and fix that? And so that's a whole different way of thinking about the problem. It's treating the solutions versus coming up with a cure. And ultimately, I don't want BSC just to be a plug-in to make eBay better,
No.
because that doesn't solve the fact that eBay is inadequate in a lot of ways. So we'd like to provide an alternative in that regard.
That's a phenomenal answer. Thank you very much. Appreciate the
Sorry, it's a little
transparency.
long, but
No, that was awesome.
Yeah,
I
so
totally understand.
it's what I was saying. What I like about it, where it's different than an eBay, where where all of a sudden you're not sure how things are going to go. If you are looking for a specific player, there it is right there. Now that's with only in stock, but you change it to everything. I mean, here are all the Pete Alonso cards, and I'm sorry, there's 195 pages.
yeah, and in the top right, you can see there's 9,358 Pete Alonso cards basically that have ever been created.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
And yeah, and so another thing that's really cool. Let's say that you want to go through and let's go to click set if you want mine. We'll just go to set, and you want to see tops. You can click on tops at the top. You can then go, if you want, you can go to base or for the variant, or you could click a variant name if you want. But
yeah.
let's say you just did base here. And then you can go to the sort by, and you can sort by newest to oldest because that's based on the year. And so now you can see every Pete Alonso card that was in the base set.
And even the ones where you have where it's a multi card with him on it as an RBI leader, a home run leader, and so on and so forth.
Exactly. And so that's where, for collectors, it's not fun trying to figure out, how many different Pete Alonso cards are there across every Topps flagship set. But you can see here that we've got them that are easily available. And, there's lots of stuff that you can do. I mean, you could go like here, if you wouldn't mind searching this at the top for me. I always like to use this as an example because it's a player I like. You can go 1997 Frank Thomas insert. And so this will show you every Frank Thomas insert card that was created in 1997.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
But you could turn the switch. I don't know if we even have any here. People might be buying them up, or maybe I'm buying them up. I might be outing myself. Yeah, we've got some. But you're able to go through here and see that. I mean, same thing parallel. Or if you wanted to just type in, blue of something, you could see every blue variation. And this is where I take a lot of pride in our site, and I think it offers a lot of potential. It's not just for people to buy cards, but it's also to learn about cards, and it's to learn about sets. And so that's one of the things that we see people staying on our site for much longer than other sites, just because there's a wealth of knowledge here, and they can start to learn and find their next collection. They're not limited by having to dig through 100 listings and getting served up a Frank Thomas autographed ball or a bat or a jersey or something that just says Frank Thomas in the name but has nothing to do with the cards. This is a way that you can see it directly, and I think that's awesome.
Well, awesome. Not only that, you see Frank Thomas, who maybe makes ashtrays.
Yeah.
you you just don't even see. If you just put in Frank Thomas, you don't you don't see just the sports cards like you're saying and everything. But I think that the part about it though is, Connor, is that you think all the cards of a player.
Yep.
When you put it in here, I mean, you're like, I did not know. I never, ever would have guessed that there were almost 9,400 different Pete Alonso cards.
Yeah.
You know how many binders that is?
That's a lot. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, there's a wealth of knowledge, and there's some, you could look up LeBron James and turn it off.
It's my guy's guy right there.
Yeah, please don't. I'll be spending way too much money.
677, Anthony. Go for it, man.
Turn it off if you'd like there. And you can see, so that's what we've got 677, but he has 16,000 cards.
1,000 different cards.
Yeah, and if you change the sort by too, I mean, you can do it by, like I said, high to low. You can do recently added to the website.
A
There's
$12,000 LeBron James for sale.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So that's like, somebody said it in the comment, but yeah, the goal here was to cut out all the fat, and to do that, you needed to create a site that was dedicated to sports cards. I mean, that's always been a frustration of mine with eBay. As good as it is for certain things, they treat a sports card the same way they treat, a used Xbox game or
Yep.
a concert T-shirt from 1976 Kiss concert. It's like these are all very, very different things. And I think when you act as if sports card collectors get on your site and they use it the same way that these other type of collectors in other avenues use it, you're missing the point. And so that's why we've stayed true to sports cards. That's why we've stayed true to being our own site and building our own platform. Because at a certain point, it's like, well, if nobody else is going to do it, we'll try to do it. And I try to take my experience as somebody that collects cards, sells cards of my own, and have had my own store to see if I could build something that would be a little bit better of a mousetrap and offer the experience that we wanted.
There you go.
Yep, that right there is a glowing review too. I mean, uh, essentially, I would imagine that's kind of what your goal is with the website, is to basically what he said, take out the BS and just
Yeah.
make it a click away to do exactly what you want.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. It's such a kind comment. And, while we were building the site and I felt like I was a caged animal, we really just wanted to get it out there. But I was reading a lot of business kind of philosophy and books about stuff. And, one that really also stuck with me that's important, they talk about what's your message to your team. And I think this is something that not only any business in general, but especially hobby businesses, is what is the goal of your business? And for us, I tell our team every idea needs to come back to, does it make it easier to buy and sell sports cards? If it doesn't do that, then there's no reason for us to be doing it. And there was a story about Southwest, and they were talking about how somebody brought up that they should add a chicken salad to the menu, and they're like, does that make us the low cost airliner, like the low fare airliner? That's our goal. And if that's not in line with our goal, there's nothing wrong with chicken salad on a flight, but that is not why people come to Southwest. They want a low price fare, and if we're doing all these other things that don't meet their needs, it's going to make the process frustrating for them. So if we try to stick to making it easier to buy and sell cards, we don't want to do anything that takes away from that. And we've seen it be successful so far, and I think people appreciate that we kind of cut through the nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah, I
definitely
mean,
consumer.
the searchability from a buyer and from a seller. I mean, the searchability is, the effort that you guys put in, the time and the effort to come up with this. I mean, it really does make the whole process so much easier to get through. And like I said, the other thing is, just seeing the website and saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe there are that many different cards of that player." When
Yep.
you think you're like, "Oh, this guy might only have a few hundred," and all of a sudden you find out he has a few thousand. It's like, wow, it's like you find things that you never even knew. You find out that there are cards that you had no clue ever, were available, because no one really has ever put up a checklist for you to look for. They've
Yeah.
only, like, when you look at eBay, you're only getting what people are listing.
Yeah.
Where here, yes, you get that, but in one click of a button, you all of a sudden find out and go, "Oh my gosh, there's 5 other, cards from 2005 of this player. I love that set. I need to get all these other 5."
Yeah. And like I said, that's something that we, take a lot of pride in being able to do. And, ultimately, I mean, what else is the point of it? I mean, at the end of the day, for us, this is a business. I'd love to make money off this. I don't claim to just be doing this out of the joy of my heart, but I think people can tell when you've built something because you care versus building it just for money. A lot of talk from companies that have kind of came up in the last couple of years, like us, have been around technology and all this cool stuff. But what you see is a lot of these companies create stuff and they try to change people for what they already want. It's like, oh, well, you don't really like physical cards. You like NFTs. You're going to buy NFTs or buy fractionalization. And that's fine. But for us, we're trying to use the data and the technology to take existing types of business models. This has been applied, whether it be reverb.com for instruments, TCG Player for trading cards, StockX for shoes. You've got Auto Trader, cars.com. I mean, there's all these sites where they have specific marketplaces because they understand that their customers want a specific experience. And that wasn't being done for sports cards. And you still see it now where sites are, sports cards and comic books and trading cards and autographed memorabilia. And at the end of the day, for me, I love cards. And so it's like, I just want a place that cares about cards. And when I want comic books, I'll go to a comic book site. And, rather than try to be everything to everybody, we'd like to be one thing to a group of people that are looking for that one thing.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, you're 100% correct. I mean, you're more geared to the way. I mean, this is what it is, and you're right. To do it the way you've done it, you've had to go ahead and have that mindset of this is the marketplace that we're in, and it needs to have its own thing, because you're right. It is so it's so different. It's not like you said, it's not t-shirts, it's not, coffee mugs, it's not, it's, I mean, let's put it, it's not a garage sale.
Yeah.
It is an LCS.
Yeah.
Right. It's not a garage sale where you go in and you have thousands, where you have a whole bunch of other items sitting around and everything and stuff like that, because you don't go to a, garage sale looking for sports cards. You go there looking for other types of stuff. If you're looking for sports cards, what do? You go to a specific place. You go more to an LCS.
Yeah.
And I think this is what you're building here. And as it keeps growing, it's I don't know. I keep saying the same thing. It really is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that. And, just like that comment there, it just said, you see it on eBay, and I don't want to beat up on eBay. eBay is a necessary evil in a lot of ways. It's a great site. It does offer some really cool stuff that buysportscards.com is never going to cater to. But the idea that eBay can perfectly cater to every collector of sports cards is kind of where I got to the point where I'm like, this is frustrating. I would like more out of my experience. And, as I start to talk to more and more people, whether it be people in my store, whether it be friends of mine, whether it just be people online, I started to see that there was other people that felt the same way. And I'm like, I can't be alone. And like I said, it's something that I'm passionate enough about, so that I wanted to just say, let's go for it. I think there's a lot of other people that are going to kind of jump on this bandwagon. And, we did a lot of cool stuff building the site. I mean, we built up a social media following before the site was launched. And one of the things that we took a lot of pride in was we did tons of polling about how people felt about different features, buy it now versus auction, versus offers versus what is a fair fee structure? What is the fair thing with images? And that's why, there's a lot of things where we show people and they're like, wow, I feel like this is stuff that I've always, been dreaming of. But we polled people throughout the hobby. I mean, we'd have polls where we'd get hundreds to even thousands of people voting on stuff. And it kind of was a hive mind of information where it's like, okay, well, I feel like I'm not alone. Sometimes people would agree that they like things that I didn't like, but it's like, well, then that's what people want. And rather than, fitting the square peg into the round hole, I wanted to build something that people wanted, rather than to once again see the sports card industry as a big pile of money and think how I'm going to suck the money out of the industry. It's like, well, how can we do something to provide value?
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it really is awesome. And you can tell just by the way you talk about it that it definitely isn't a cash grab, which in the hobby is very refreshing, because there's a ton of companies that have basically come out that have basically just been a cash grab, and it's noticeable, just in the level of quality control or customer service some of the companies have. So let's see a newer company come out and have a different approach is very refreshing, and we definitely need more companies like
also in the description is the Twitter and the IG. Go there. They, the support team, the questions, I mean, they respond back. Very, very helpful. Like I was saying, earlier, when I was setting up my selling account, I was, it was a me issue. It wasn't the website issue, but I was like, I can't understand. I forgot what it was. And I asked I asked the question, and boom. I mean, within, I don't know, to me, it felt like it was even less than an hour. Maybe it was an hour, but the answer was there. And I was like, oh crap, that's what I kept doing wrong. But very, very helpful. The staff very, very helpful in answering questions and, and stuff like that. So that was also, excellent. The customer service, customer support, was quick, easy, to get through and get answered.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate the comment about the landing page. And I'm reading ripping and flipping has a good point, and that's a thing that I think a lot of people miss. This is a hobby that people are very, very passionate about, and if you're not a part of it, it's almost like a foreign language, or it's just like a scent that you can't smell. And you see it in the way that people ship their cards. You see it in the way that people take care of their stuff, the way that they interact with other people. There's an underlying passion about it, and I think one of the things that I really appreciate, and it seems like collectors kind of have come to our site for this reason, is that they can tell the thought behind the site because it's stuff that they want. And it's really something where the site that we're building has purpose. It's something where they can see, I love the quote that simple is the ultimate sophistication, and it doesn't need to be complicated. If we can make the process easier, everybody's going to be happy. And so we really do try to focus on that experience because nothing else matters in the hobby. I mean, we do, there's so much stuff that we do. If you look at the average collector, if you look at the average seller, the average buyer, there's so many things that we do that if you put it at a Fortune 500 company and they were going through cutting expenses or ways to save time and money, they would cut so many of the little things out of the hobby that make it special. Putting the way that you put the tape on the package so that it makes it easier for them to remove the cards. People don't get that unless you live it. And so that's really for us what we try to do in terms of building the website. There's a lot of things people have said, why would you do that? It probably took you however many more hours to build it. But ultimately, I would rather it take 100 more hours for me and my team to build something if it saves 10,000 hours of our users' time. And that's the kind of decisions that I think hopefully will lead to us being a successful company for the long run in the sports card market.
Yeah, and honestly, the integrity alone is going to be something that's going to carry you guys, in my opinion. Like I think insincerity is something that people in the hobby really can sense. And when again, you've just been super sincere, and I just give you kudos as a person more so as somebody implementing this into his business as well, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of things doing something like this. And I mentioned to you guys before that I've got a young son. And I'm sure you guys know, my mom would always, talk about business stuff or making money. She's like, at some point in your life, it's like an elevator. And at a certain point, you get off and you're happy with where you're at. And, there's just certain decisions for me where it's like, I don't know if making that extra 10% is worth the way that it make me feel, in terms of what we're doing to the customer. And at the end of the day, my goal is to get the business to the point where we can be self-sufficient and then hopefully make money. But, at the end of the day, I have other business stuff that I'm able to make money off of right now. And so I don't have to, ever run my, customers under a bus to make a few extra bucks. And I don't have any investors or anybody else that's kind of pulling the strings on me to tell me what to do. So it feels good that I can do things that I sleep well at night. And ultimately, maybe it's just Midwestern values, but I've always been taught, and I've seen it to be true in business as well, is if you do the right things, it actually ends up paying a lot more in the long run. It's the people that are, they get rich quick. You can sniff them from a mile away, and they burn every bridge that they come across. And, it's funny, the thing that they want most, they get the least of because they don't understand that just treating people the right way and doing a good job actually pays a lot more in the long run.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think you've built a website, and I mean, I don't know whether it's true or not, but the feeling that I get is you built it for the collector, not really the flat out just flipper, right?
Yeah.
Not the guy who goes and stands and goes to Walmart and buys every blaster box, rips them all up, and just throws the cards on a website and stuff like that. It's like you built it with the collector in mind because of the way I think this and the searching and the sorting and all the kind of stuff. I think it has a lot to do with that. It's more for someone who who is trying to it to me is more of a collector, not, and whether it be a collector of a player or a collector of a set. I just think the way it's built and everything, it just gives me that feel when I go there that it's more collector oriented. Where when you think of the other sites, they are more I hate to say flipper, but you know what I mean, reseller,
Yeah.
the reseller type, thing.
Yeah,
In
no,
my opinion.
no, that makes a lot of sense. And like you said, I have a store where we sell cards, and our objective is to make money and keep the door open, and keep our employees well fed. So there's no harm or foul. I mean, maybe the people that are taking all the stuff from Walmart and Target, that can be frustrating. But just people that are flipping cards, I think there's a place in the hobby for it. My worry though is that this collector, what got you guys into it from our conversations before I got on here, what got me into it, going to the gas station with my dad as a kid, for doing well. My worry is that some of the trends in the hobby, whether it be around breaking, whether it be around, people buying every single blaster at the store, whether it be every video being about a 10,000, $100,000 $1 million card, I get worried that like the next generation is not going to be in the hobby because it's not accessible. And so that's where I hope that, what you guys are doing on this channel, what we're trying to do at our company, shows that there's a lot of people, like I say, it's kind of the silent majority of the industry that just loves cards. Doesn't matter if it's 25 cents, $25. They get their Friday paycheck, like somebody had mentioned in the comments, and they go and buy cards that tie them to players that they love, tie them to a time in their life that they enjoyed collecting cards growing up, like myself. And that's kind of what we hope to be. I mean, there's other places for other people, but we just didn't really see anybody filling this vacuum, and so we thought we might be able to throw our hat into the ring and see what we could do.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like it's funny when you mention that about the young generation. And Anthony and I have had this conversation, and just two of us, we've had it with other people. It's amazing when you go to card shows and you see these 10, 11, 12-year olds carrying Zion cases, that
Yeah,
are loaded with PSA 10s or BGS, all these high, and they're player X, rookie, the Kevin Durant rookie, or the Julio Rodriguez, or whoever it is, and they're like, yeah, oh, yeah, I'll trade, but this one's like 1,400, this one's 1,800. It's like, oh my goodness gracious, and you
yeah,
wonder, to them, is it a hobby
yeah,
or is
yeah,
it a business?
yeah. And I I definitely see that too. I think everybody does. I mean, I try to be a little optimistic about it because there's probably a lot of those kids that may come into the industry that way, but they may stay for something else. And that would be the goal. But yeah, I mean, I get worried. I mean, I think about the breaks and stuff, and it's like, for me, the cards that I remember opening as a kid, it's like those. I opened a lot of Upper Deck Power Up. That's my favorite set from 2004. But it's like I get the cards in, and they still smell like they did when I used to open them almost 20 years ago as a kid, and it brings me back to a time in my life. And a lot of these kids that are just gambling on some of these sites on breaks and stuff like that, they're not going to have the same relationship with cards where they remember opening a pack with their dad. They remember, it's no different than buying a skin on Fortnite or Minecraft or doing, it's just like a gambling kind of thing. And, my hope is to put cards in people's hands. And that's why, I like what Fanatics did with like the 2023 Topps Big League set. It was an accessible price point. It was about $2.50 a pack. They had some great colorful designs. It was everywhere. I think that's what the hobby needs. We need to make it accessible for kids to come in, or we can look at it like a lot of other industries like coins and stamps where it just wasn't accessible for the next generation and you start to see it fall off. And that'd be the last thing I'd want because it's brought a lot of joy into my life.
Yeah. Very true, very true. Yeah, I mean, it's an experience that, it's funny, it's one of those things where it is very personal, like you said, when you remember, when you opened up and you hit that, when you got that card and you're like, oh my gosh, or anything. But like I always say, I started collecting in 1976, and value of cards didn't mean anything to me and my friends. It didn't make a difference. Like when we opened up packs of cards, we knew, I mean, we knew our collections like the back of our hand. There
Yep.
was no, and you would open up a pack, and you would hear, two things: got them or need them.
Yeah.
And when the ones that you needed, you put them in a pile. And then you went to your friend and you said, hey, I got all these. Do you need them? And they'd look through
Yep.
and they'd be like, I need these three. Cool. All right. Hey, do you need any of the? Oh, I need these four. All right. You take those four, you take those three, just give me the olives back. I mean, that's all it was.
Yeah.
It didn't make a difference that it was like, whoa, 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 hold on a second. This card is worth $8. You're
Yeah.
giving
This
me
one's
you're
750.
giving me 2 cards that are worth $3. No, that's not an unfair trade. No, it wasn't about that. It was, I need these, you need those. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. We build our set.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it is, changing along those lines.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's important, I think the biggest thing hopefully our site shows is that there's a place in the hobby for everybody.
Yep.
And I think it's important that, like I said, I people underestimate it maybe because it's more work or maybe because it's not as flashy. But you look at companies like Walmart. Walmart is a big company. They make a lot of money. There's a lot of people that shop at Walmart, and there's a lot of people that say, "Oh, you buy your clothes at Walmart, I get Gucci." But the reality is, there's tens of millions of people buying their stuff at Walmart, and
Yep.
Walmart provides a valuable service for people and being able to have a place where people can get affordable stuff. And we kind of our side, I'd say, is hopefully to be a Walmart and Amazon type place where it's a wide selection, it's affordable. You're probably never going to find a $10 million 52 Mantle on our website, but hopefully you can find some 52-cent Mickey Mantles on our website. And that's ultimately kind of my goal. And if we can bring that to the hobby, I think it's a better it's a better thing. I think it's better to have places where there's different type of collectors that can go. And this was a place we saw there was an opportunity that I personally had a vested interest in wanting to get up.
Yeah. Well, your point. You know what? We need um the Jeff Wilsons. We need the Drakes
Yeah,
because they can afford the cards that we will at least know are actually real that we can't afford.
yeah,
When Jeff Wilson holds up, the 85 star, Jordan that he paid $100,000 for, I get to see that card.
yeah,
Otherwise, I'm not gonna see that card. Like, I'm not gonna get close to that card. When you go to National, right, and you see the $1 million, like the Mickey Mantles that are millions of dollars, we need those people who could afford those cars. So that this way we can get a chance to see them. Otherwise, we'd never see them if no one's gonna
yeah.
buy them.
Exactly. Yeah. And, like you mentioned, whether it be Jeff or Drake, if those are people that can bring people into the hobby, that's great. But then we need places where people say, no matter what economic background that you have, what you're interested in, there's places that you can feel like you're a part of the hobby and you don't have
Yep.
to feel like because you don't have, thousands of dollars to spend that you can't participate. And, I think that is a really, really important part of the hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
This is 100% something that caters to just about every type of collector. Whether you're looking to flip cards, whether you're looking to collect cards, it basically gives each person their own little storefront to be able to really promote their whole collection, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and like that's where I talk to a lot of people at shows, and I think that we give a unique perspective because I'll talk to people that work at or run marketplaces or other sites, grading companies that, you know, if you're not really in the industry, you just see the headlines on stuff. And the way that I kind of describe it is like, my wife may watch the Kardashians, but she's not going to Bora Bora every weekend. She's not buying the new Mercedes every weekend. A lot of people watch that content because they want to see the cool card, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that that's the card they're interested in buying. And so, when it becomes that every company is chasing that top dollar, you start to see that most people that are kind of in the regular people. I mean, people that just love collecting. It's not about it being a 401k for them or, whether or not they can flip it and buy a new yacht. It's more because they love the cards. And so I think that's where there's opportunity, not just for marketplaces like ours, but for YouTube channels like your guys's, for different types of card shows, whatever else. I really think that there's a lot of people that are just being overlooked because it's not as flashy.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah. Yep. Man. Wait, what do we have here?
Is that referring to us as a seller?
Hope they don't advertise as a seller, but it's better for sellers. So I'll pick up my buy tomorrow, come home, and get set up and see how it flows. I believe ripping and flipping is going to be setting up an account so you can start You can start
Awesome.
doing more ripping and doing more flipping.
Awesome. We're glad to hear that. And yeah, we just to clarify, I have some personal cards that I list, not a ton, but yeah, we're not selling or competing with any of the sellers on the marketplace, and we do a lot of stuff. So we've got an Instagram with a little over 24,000 followers. Our Twitter's almost 6,000. I think our Facebook's 3,500. We got a TikTok with about 1,000. So we do a lot of social media stuff. And once again, kind of people find us through word of mouth. So feel free to tweet at us, share things you've picked up, or feedback of the site. We're pretty responsive, and we've seen that as a good way to continue to get the word out, to build the site up.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know what more to ask. I mean, I mean, you have been, open book, honest, available. I mean, letting guiding us through the site, showing us how easy it is and everything. Very, very helpful. A great website. Can't wait to get more cards on there and stuff. And no, hold on a second.
Yeah, we're not doing that. So there's no prioritization of any of the sellers. All of the listings are ranked based on what the lowest item price plus lowest shipping cost is on the site. I think that that's the most fair way to do it. I've been victim, as I'm sure maybe Rippin' and Flippin' has been, of bigger sellers that have more connections and more strings to pull to do different stuff. And so we wanted to keep it fair. So you can go into any of those listings and they should be sorted by lowest price and lowest shipping rate from there down. So that it's about as fair as we can make it. And they're all right there next to each other so that buyers can make the best decision.
Yeah, I think, like I said, seeing it all on one page. Now, obviously, if you have multiple, you're not scrolling as much as you have to on other sites because of how condensed it is, because you're not showing a whole bunch of other specifics, right? It's who the seller is, what their price is, what their shipping is, and how many they have.
Exactly.
I mean, what more do you really need?
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that and everything.
Now, is there any, I know you said there's no kind of incentive based on like who the seller is. Is there any kind of like, for example, YouTube, eBay, you always hear of like algorithms, like for activity. Like if say I'm sitting there and I list 1,000 cards in a day, well, I theoretically get more hits because of that activity, or would it just be because I have 1,000 cards and there's 1,000 times more people potentially coming across my store? Like, is there any kind of reward for like more activity, I guess is what I'm getting at?
Yeah, so I guess the reward would be we do have a lot of buyers that come on that go to the recently added tab. They may get on every day and look for, Pete Alonso to see recently added Pete Alonso. So if you're posting a lot, obviously, the wider you cast your net, the more fish you may catch. But there's nothing kind of behind the scenes where, kind of going to Rippin's question where we are saying, Anthony post more, so we're going to make sure to shove his listings up on the results. The only way it gets quote unquote pushed on the results would be based on the sorting, which recently added, if you're adding a lot, you'll keep showing up. But yeah, we're not doing anything to like prioritize anybody beyond that. And we also do have the ability, I don't know if you guys saw it, but on the filter bar at the bottom, you can go search by sellers also. So we get a lot of guys on Twitter that do stack sales. And then they'll go through, and if they don't sell something in the stack sale, they'll list it on our website, and then they'll link to the site and say, hey, there's no fees here. It's cheaper than them doing their own Shopify store or putting it on eBay or anywhere else. So they'll basically just say anything that doesn't sell in the stack, they'll throw on BSC. They'll tell people, hey, here's the link to my BSC store, and you can basically filter to only see their listings. So it's really convenient for that. So yeah, but there's no agreements that we have behind the scenes. You see, you couldn't ask me, does anybody get discounted rates, because we're not charging anybody either. So it's completely fair across the board. We really do try to make it as easy as possible. And like I said, I've been in different roles where I'm a small seller, I have my own store, and I don't know, playing favorites doesn't always sit right with me.
That's what it is. Cards at a price.
Yep.
And I think, you will, I mean, just like with most things, you have in your store, your brick and mortar store, you have people in your area who they come back because of, your selection, what you offer, and so on and so forth. You're probably going to have the same thing here. If
Yeah.
you're the type of person who puts in a wide variety, your prices are good and stuff like that, people are going to remember that and they're going to say, hey, I'm looking for so and so. Well, let me see if Anthony has that in his store
Yeah.
because I know that Anthony, number one, man, when I order from Anthony, my cards get shipped out quick. I like the way they're packed and so on and so forth, right? So you build up that customer base and they come back to your, come back to your little store in the, in the mall of BSC.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one of the biggest things, when people get on the website, that they may not list a ton of cards initially, whatever else. They ask kind of what the feedback, how they can best get set up, wide selection, good prices, trying to utilize some of the cheaper shipping options is great. Sometimes we'll see people just do a blanket $5, which if you don't have a lot of cards, it makes it hard to make it worth it to buy from you. If you're going to take pictures, good pictures are important. And yeah, you'll really start to see that it's honestly refreshing. You start to see that these little communities, people start to trust people within the community, and they come back to the same place, and that makes us feel good because not only are they coming back to BSC, but they're coming back to the sellers on our website, and that shows that they're doing a good job. And occasionally I'll test it by from sellers that we're getting a lot of sales, and you start to see kind of why they do it. It is high quality shipping, it's fast turnaround, it's good messaging that the item's been shipped and whatever else. And so yeah, we definitely do see that return business, which helps us to know that we're doing a good job and that our sellers are high quality sellers.
Excellent.
Definitely.
Well, Anthony, I'm running out of stuff. I mean, well, anything else, Anthony, from your side?
No, I
You
mean,
think of?
really, the only other question I'd have is, do you have like a 5 to 10 year plan, like goal, vision for the company?
Yeah, so ultimately, I would say that the biggest vision, for me personally, I'd love to get to the business to the point where it's self sufficient, which will mean charging a couple percent fee at some point.
Mhm.
And I would love to not ever have to sell the business. That's probably not what most people would say. Ultimately, you never know what opportunity presents itself, but I like to have control over what we're doing. I like to be able to sleep at night with all the decisions and not feel like I have to answer to anybody else. I trust my moral, you know, compass on this stuff. And, I would like to do what some of the other sites I mentioned have done. I mean, if you look at reverb.com or TCG Player or StockX or, any of these marketplaces, chewy.com, whatever, Etsy, you can go down the line of all of these marketplaces. They've built these niche marketplaces and they've been able to offer users an experience that's unparalleled on sites like an eBay. And so I would really like BSC to kind of become a fixture of the industry where we can tailor it towards the average collector and get it to the point where it's self-sufficient. And at that point, as long as it's paying its bills, I've got other stuff kind of with business things, and it's not going to be something where I've got to milk my customers or sell out for a quick buck. So that would be the goal, is to just get it big enough that we can continue to run it for a really long time. And the word of mouth has been critical, and we've more than exceeded our expectations up until this point. So I'm excited to see what comes going forward.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys are going to do too, man. Like, what you have here is very impressive, and I mean, I'd be shocked just based off of your data alone if you're not going to have several people beat down your door to give you offers. But yeah, I mean, kudos. I mean, like more so than impressive product, impressive as a person.
Well,
And
thank you.
like that's something I can say definitely for you just in the last hour or so that we've been chatting is you definitely seem like a real down to earth person, and like it's wonderful to see that in the hobby.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, we've had people knock on our door in the past, but like I said, it's been really, really important for us to keep kind of on the vision that me and my team had from the beginning. I mean, I have a group of friends that I built this with. We didn't outsource it, whether that be to a third party company or to a third world country to have, developers somewhere else building it. We ultimately thought if we were going to be the best at doing this, we needed to do it in house. We needed to build it ourselves the way that we wanted to. And so we've stayed dedicated to that. And, ultimately we've done good enough up until this point where I don't see any reason why I'd have to go to anybody else at this time. So I hope that can continue long term. Like I said, if somebody comes forward and I know that they're genuine about wanting to help us get to the goal, and I think that they can help us get there quickly and stay there longer, then it's something we would always consider. But I'm lucky that that's not a position that we have to be in right now, and that I can keep doing this the way we've been doing it, because I think we've been able to make decisions we can sleep well with.
Absolutely. You're doing great, man. I give you all the props in the world for
Yeah.
the way that you run the company. Is
Thank you.
that says more than anything.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, the vision is awesome. I mean, the steps you're taking, you can see that you are, you know, you're crawling before you walk, before you jog, before you run, before you sprint.
Yep.
And I think in the long run, that's the the right approach. Because I think there would have probably been things that you could do that we that you've added over the last month that you could have probably said, man, we do this right from the get go, and probably would have been like, no, 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 not yet. We have to.
Yeah.
You build the foundation like you're doing, right? You're building that foundation. You build it one brick at a time. You make that strong foundation, and then you add on from there, and great things happen. So, looking forward to being a part of this. Looking forward to helping this website, help the community, help the hobby, and everything. Continue to grow and stuff.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
the biggest thing that I think, kind of as we wrap up here, that I would love to have from you, as well as the people in the comments, is ultimately our goal, like I said, is to create a site that offers a lot of value to the community, and it hopefully can become a mainstay for collectors, both all different roles. And so we really do love and appreciate feedback. There's been so many things that the community's been, vital. People have been early users, even late users, that have reached out with suggestions for how to improve, that we've been able to implement to make life easier. That's something that, once again, I take a lot of pride in, since we've got a small team and we've got some procedures in place to monitor that kind of stuff with our support. Like I said, everything is in house. I mean, we're not outsourcing development, we're not outsourcing support. It's our team, and so that information gets to me always. And so feedback is crucial, and don't ever feel bad as if we'll take it insulting. There may be reasons we're doing things that you may not understand, and I'm happy to say those things, and maybe that gives you another idea for us. But we're really, really open to it. We never want to snub our nose at anybody. I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, if we're not doing a good job, it's not going to be a successful business. So ultimately, we answer the community on this stuff, and we're going to just take their suggestions and best put our resources together to build the site out as quickly as we can in the right direction. So if you've got any ideas or anything that seems inconvenient or frustrating about the site, we love the positive feedback, but we love the negative feedback more, because it gives us stuff to work on.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah. I don't know if we have any more final words after that. I mean, like I said, thank you so much for giving up your time, taking away time from your family to go ahead and sit here and talk to us, about your website and about the hobby. It is much appreciated. If either Anthony and I could ever help you in any way, please, feel free to reach out to us. Whether it's like, hey, guys, there's a feature, we're looking for a test group or so on and so forth, we can help you out anyway. Please, let us know. We're more than willing to go ahead and help out in any way we can. Like I said, you've been gracious enough to give us of your time, and we know you can't get that back, and we appreciate you giving it up. So thank you very, very much for being on with us tonight.
Yeah, no, definitely thankful to be here.
Yep. Anthony, closing words.
No, guys, I just genuinely appreciate everyone's interaction tonight, all the questions that you guys have had for Connor. It helps Michael and I, our jobs a lot easier. Again, make sure you guys check out his website. We do have it in the pinned chat there. If you guys are watching this on replay, it'll be down in the comment section, or excuse me, not the comment section, but the description of this video. Again, it is buysportscards.com. Next week, guys, we will be on my channel. It's Picksburgh for anyone who's new. We do have Tyler Huth coming on from G&T Sports Cards Plus. It's a local card shop here in Pittsburgh. And they're also starting up a grading company called GTG Grading as well. So it'll be interesting to have him on to kind of pick his brain, and get his perspective as another hobby entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you guys. I really do appreciate being on here. Definitely look forward, hopefully, to being on again sometime in the future. And like I said, open door policy for me. If you guys have any questions or need anything or any suggestions, the only thing I would ask from everybody is if you enjoy the site, keep spreading the word. That's ultimately
Yep.
been the biggest thing for us, and it's going to be the biggest thing going forward. If we do a good job, just please tell somebody about it.
Yep. Again, thank you everybody in the chat. Thanks for the great questions. Thanks for all the support. Thanks everybody, watching live, or on videotape. But appreciate each and everybody. Have yourselves a great night. Don't forget, come back, go visit the site, check it out over the next few days. Get them cards listed, and it's awesome.
You know what? Real quick before you go off, let's do a giveaway for next week. Whoever lists the most cards and comes back to my channel and says, "Hey, I've listed X amount," by our next stream, I'll give away a slab next week. And I'll let you guys pick. I'll have a couple different sports available, but whoever lists the most cards to buysportscards.com this week and tells us about it next week, I'll give away a slab.
There you go.
Awesome. We appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. See everybody next week. Have yourselves a great week. Have yourself a great weekend. Catch you later.